So, Onita Precure out now. So the next 12 weeks I'll be working on this video to write my views on each episode. Over the next few weeks, for those who don't know, Onita Precure is about the girls from Yes Precure 5 living their adults' lives, along with Saki and Mai from Splash Star. However, with typing this, only 2 episodes are out and they haven't appeared in it yet, and it is promoted as a Yes Precure 5 series. So without further ado, let's begin. So the first episode is about Nozomi and Rin. Nozomi is a school teacher and Rin is a jewellery designer, and there is a part of the episode too where she's playing football, so could be a footballer too. Nozomi has a student called Rumi who is struggling with the idea of moving school because she wants to become a dancer, and Nozomi essentially pries into Rumi's personal family business, and as someone who works with children and young people, you're not supposed to do that! Sometimes there are things you can't do in a situation, and giving support is the only thing you can do. And I'm actually surprised Nozomi realizes this and fails to stop Rumi's move. Both the head teacher and Rumi's father asks her what she could do. This is where Nozomi realizes she can't do anything. This is where I want to say, if you're wanting to go into a job like this, where you want to help people, sometimes you can't do anything. Yeah, you do everything in your power to support them at the end of the day. You need to look after yourself and not put all your energy and effort into the people you help. This episode is a great lesson about the failures of adult life. Just because you're an adult doesn't mean you know everything. You still go into life still learning things about yourself, mostly in young adult life. Rin also has her struggles too. She's making a jewelry career now, and she's struggling to have any of her stuff picked. She's also struggling with her football. There is a scene where she's playing a game and she loses the game. By the way, I'm British and the sport is called football here. Anyway, one thing about these episodes, they meet up in a bar in an evening to talk about struggles of everyday life. On a side note, I really liked this. There are a couple of characters from Splash Star running the bar, and that was a nice Easter egg. And then at the end of the episode, we see Urara, Komachi, Karin and Kurumi are all introduced as adults, and they have a scene in the bar where they're having a catch-up. Then the episode ends. Overall, a good opening episode. I think it was good we got to focus on just Nozomi and Rin and see adult life in their perspective rather than 6 characters all in one go. In the next episode it does go into the struggle of the other girls, but as I'm typing this, episode 2 is already out, so let's move on to episode 2. Episode 2 is more of the Precure side of this Precure show. Nozomi is awake and back to cure dream. It also goes into the struggles the other cures go through. Urara not being able to impress a director in a play, Komachi going through writer's block and also thinking she's falling behind compared to everyone, strongly relate. Karin is struggling to be there for her patients, and finally Kurumi's being mistreated by her boss. This isn't really a Nozomi episode, the previous episode was more about Nozomi, but she's the one to reawaken this time. Now question, why is Kurumi human but Cocoa, Nuts and Syrup are all still mascots? Will they become adults too? Can Kurumi turn into milk? Why is this Precure mascot doing shots? Anyway, Syrup and Nuts find a time flower, but it's unknown what it's for. But there are 6. Wonder what they will do. I think one of my favourite scenes in this episode is Komachi talking to her sister, telling her she feels left behind compared to everybody else. Like I said before, I strongly relate to this story arc, and I really hope they go into this more in later episodes. Komachi is struggling to come up with a story for her new novel, and now she feels like she isn't achieving much compared to everybody else, especially when it comes to Urara. She looks at her posters in a play in a very sad way. Komachi ends up talking to her sister about this, and there's a nice scene where Komachi is told that she's achieved enough. I think it's nice to see Komachi have this story arc, because I feel like in the original Yes Precure 5, Komachi was the character with the least amount of character development, so I think it's quite nice to see her get a character that feels really human. Rather than that, it's, oh no, I'm trapped in a book! I do feel like there's a lot of Komachi fans out there, and they do criticize the fact that all she does is writes and literally nothing else, so I feel like this will be a character that fans will want to see. Now let's move on to Nozomi being Cure Dream again. I'm not gonna lie, I feel a bit cheated and a bit disappointed that they just aged her down and reusing the animation from 5 Go-Go. I would have loved to have seen an adult version of these characters as cures rather than aging them back down and they become cures. What's the point of them being adults then? Nozomi becoming Kyojin again, I liked that since Nozomi feel powerless without her Precure powers, so she has this moment to feel strong again, but I wanted to see an adult version of these characters, and I'm gonna be honest, I find it so disappointing and also very lazy that they just decided to remaster the animation from 2008, by the way. I know I'm probably expecting too much since Toei isn't doing this series. They have handed it off to another animation studio, Studio Gene. Toei is also known for reused animation, for example One Piece, the opening, Gold Roger story recap, and then you have about 9 minutes of reused animation after that. Precure 2, transformations and attacks, reused animation, but again that's fine. I don't care about transformations being reused if they made their own transformations and attacks and not use Toei's old animation. As much as I loved the struggles of adult life and the message about climate change this season has portrayed so far, side note, why are people moaning about it? Splash Star and Healing Good are also seasons of Precure that have spoke about this topic, and Precure has always been a pro-environment show. I do find the Precure sections of this series very disappointing. Overall, this episode was good with the slice of life stuff, but I have a feeling I'm not going to enjoy the Precure stuff as much now. Episode 3 is a really good episode. This is the reawakening of Cure Aqua and Milky Rose. This is a Karen-focused episode where she's in a hospital with a young girl with a sports injury, and Karen is trying to encourage her to go through physio. However, she really doesn't want to do it because she feels it's too late for her to play sports again. So the episode is about the struggles of Karen's life as a doctor. It also goes into the relationship between Karen and Kurumi, and this does answer my question from the previous episode. Kurumi can still turn into milk. Would you think watching a Precure drunk is weird? How about a Precure mascot drunk? There's a really sweet moment with Kurumi telling Karen she appreciated her feeding her apples when she was sick, and I love the little detail of Kurumi always drinking apple-based drinks at the bar because of that. I would say the one thing I would have liked to have seen more is Kurumi's struggles as well. Kurumi in the second episode has a boss who doesn't treat her nicely, and I would have really liked to have seen Kurumi's struggles at her job. I think Komachi and Ura turning back into Precure together will work because of their stories being linked together. However, Karami and Kurumi does have a close friendship, and I really think we are losing Kurumi's story because of it was a very Karen-focused episode. As for the Precure part of the episode, like I said, we see the reawakening of Cure Aqua and Milky Rose. I won't go again into the disappointment of them aging them down because I already feel I've already been on that rant. But I will say this, the 3D animation of the enemies looks so off. Why did they use 3D? They could have not done this in 2D because these 3D models in a 2D environment looks really off. But there's not much to say, good to see these characters again in action. The episode ends with Karen successfully getting this girl into physio by trying to see what it's like for her to be in a wheelchair herself. I get what she's doing, it's an empathetic strategy, but I have a feeling if this was real life, someone would have took this the wrong way. But I do think it's a lovely approach Karen took. The last scene is Precure 5 in the bar, and finally Saki and Mai are introduced to the story, and it is implied Saki and Mai will have a next focused episode, so looking forward to seeing their story. So we get to know what Saki and Mai are up to in life. Saki is now helping with the bakery and is engaged. Meanwhile, Mai is a graphic designer for a big company is going through a breakup with her boyfriend. I did not think we'd ever see Precure go through themes like this, and especially with Saki and Mai. Guess they didn't have a lot to do with them. However, I love that Mai isn't sad because she knew that's not what she wanted, and Saki being in a happy relationship and telling Mai it's not perfect. I also love it's Saki that's in the happy relationship because most people would assume it would be Mai. However, Mai is wanting to focus on her job and later in the episode the Precure mission. Mai is also concerned because she doesn't want to get married and have kids yet, and she feels like she's falling behind for wanting to continue her career. Saki gives her some good advice on the dilemma, saying Mai isn't bad for falling behind, she's doing what she wants. I do also want to say Saki and Mai's adult designs are my favourite of the show, and I'm glad these characters are getting some love, especially since Splash Star wasn't a highly reviewed season. I mean, the animation and the character design was what really put me off watching Splash Star back in 2013 when I was watching them all. Both Splash Star and Yes 5 were the ones that I was really putting off because I will say the animation is probably by far the worst of these two seasons. As for the Precure stuff, there is no Precure section in this episode, and I don't think there will be. Saki and Mai use Flappy and Choppy to transform, and unfortunately the voice actor for Choppy sadly passed away back in 2015. However, we did get something that I kind of was expecting, but not to the capability that it was. Bunby! This guy is one of my favourite Precure villains, and I think this is the baseline of the creation of Precure villains we love to this day. Precure villains were very dull until about Fresh Precure, however Bunby has always been my exception, and it's nice to see him back in the series. Even though he has a villain form and tries to save Saki and Mai, it's so nice to see him as a hero. The episode ends with Mai ending her relationship with her boyfriend and now has a full understanding on what she wants to do in her life now. Overall, this was a good episode. Unfortunately, we didn't see Saki and Mai turn into Bloom and Egret, and I don't think we will, to be honest. Flappy and Choppy have not been introduced, and it would be really hard to bring them back, especially with what I mentioned before about Choppy. And most of this is a Precure 5 season, not a Splash Star season. I would love to see Michiru and Karu come back as well. They're doing a live stream series as cats, but I would love to see them be reunited with Saki and Mai. Okay, this is my least favourite episode so far. Aside from that, I hate Coco and Nuts. They are my least favourite mascots, and I'll let my fellow Newcastle United fans explain why. Yep, I hate them because they're pedos. While we're at it, this is the one thing I hate about Magical Girl anime. Older men preying on young girls, even Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask, pedo bait. Anyway, Nozomi finds out Coco and Nuts are coming back, and she's happy about the idea to see Coco again, and says the reason she became a teacher was because of him. However, when they do come back, it's just Nuts. Nozomi questions why Coco hasn't gotten back to her in such a long time and tries to justify it with him being busy. However, Nozomi gets stuck in a dimension with the main villain that we now call Belle. Meanwhile, Nuts, Komachi and Kurumi are surrounded by the bad CGI monsters. Kurumi turns into Milky Rose. However, I was expecting Komachi to come back into Cure Mint. I just find it odd that she didn't. Meanwhile, Nozomi has an evil version and tells her that Coco doesn't care anymore. Anyway, the pedo does care and comes back. Nozomi turns to Cure Dream and she is able to get out of the dimension, and she cries in the pedo's arms and the end happens. I'll be honest, I don't really have a lot to say about this episode, other than I really hope they aren't going down the route I'm thinking they are, because this would be grooming, and before I hear the argument, Nozomi's an adult. If you're in school, or even out of school, imagine starting a relationship with your teacher. Underage or not, you're an adult. You've been out of school for 10 years. You run into your high school teacher and then start a relationship. That is grooming and an advantage of power. If you have a professional relationship with someone, it is inappropriate to start a romance with them, even if you are of age. Coco in Nozomi's case is grooming and an advantaged position of power. Why do you think the Q has aged down? It's because Coco and Nuts likes them young. They are pedos. Please, Precure, please do not go down this route of grooming and inappropriate relationships. Anyway, I don't want to talk about this episode anymore. It's uncomfortable. Let's go to the next one. Episode 6 is a Rin episode, and yay, because Rin is my favourite Cure from Precure 5. Rin is struggling with her job and she needs to succeed in her jewellery presentation to stay in her department or she will be demoted to sales. She is struggling to find a design that will impress her boss, so she has a chat with Karen on the way home, who's doing a night shift in the hospital. Small detail, but I do like that they talk about being a doctor and having weird work hours and how it does affect Karen's health, as Karen tells Rin she isn't sleeping and Rin gives her recommendations to help her sleep. Rin designs a piece of jewellery that is to make people happy, however her boss tells her she understands where she's coming from, but the design is bland. She then goes to Saki's bakery because it was mentioned on a show called Dark Night Live, which is definitely not hosted by Michiru and Karu. Now we move on to the Precure stuff. Rin sees the enemy and just wandering and chooses to do nothing about it. She loses confidence in being a Precure, and after they go to Saki's bakery, she tells Karen that she saw them and feels like she can't do anything. Then the same enemies attack. Karen turns to Kyoraka and struggles to fight on her own. Rin realizes Karen was helping her through a difficult time and decided she needs to protect her. She then becomes Cure Rouge again and defeats the enemies with Aqua, and Rin starts to get that confidence back. I really liked this episode. Like I said, Rin is my favourite Yes5 character, and this was such a relatable episode for me as someone who's struggling in a job they are passionate about, and it's nice to see that relationship between Karen and Rin. The episode does end with one confident character to another struggling Urara and her play and her director telling her she's not good enough. Looking forward to see the next episode and going into Urara's acting career. So the next episode is about Urara's acting career, so I guess we won't be continuing that Komachi story from episode 2. Urara is told by the director that she needs to take a break from the play, and she is convinced that she's going to be sacked or replaced. After she gets the news, she's reunited with Syrup, and I must say, Age was not as kind to him compared to the two pedos. They have a day out together, and Urara tells Syrup what's going on in life. Urara then learns Syrup can play the guitar, so Urara decides that her and Syrup should write a song about how she's feeling. It's a massive success, and just to finish the Urara story before going into the Precure stuff, because of writing this, I have also watched episode 8. This is very rushed. Anyway, Urara's director sees the improvement in her work because of her song, and she just wants Urara to realise what she was doing for the role, and also relax and not put pressure on herself in acting. The Precure stuff isn't really that relevant. The only thing is Urara's self-confidence is non-existent, but then 5 seconds later, suddenly, like I said, I have also watched episode 8, Urara revival is also rushed. I'll be honest, I say the Precure elements are the weakest part of this Precure show. I just hope later on they're going to improve and at least get a decent final fight. Overall, this was a really cute episode. I love the relationship between Syrup and Urara, and I love how they write songs together. Although I think this would have been better if they went back to Komachi's struggles in episode 2, where she's a bit envious of Urara. But also keep that story where Urara gets told to go on a break. That could lead to a great conflict, especially since these two characters have been left on the sidelines. I did enjoy this episode, but come on, let's do more with Urara and Komachi. Right, from one forgettable character in this show, let's go for Precure's most forgettable character, Komachi. Let me just put it out there, I don't hate Komachi. When she gets some time, she's a good character and she has goals. She's a good friend to Karen, which we don't see much in this series. However, I do feel like the writers just forget she existed during the Precure 5 era, and nothing has changed now. She has such a good start in episode 2, where she's worried about falling behind everyone and having writer's block. I would have loved to have seen where that would have gone. Instead, we have an episode where Komachi's now a detective. I don't mind this. I feel like it gives Komachi something to do, but it just comes out of nowhere. Anyway, Komachi wants to know the link between the town and the shadows. This then takes them to Sanai, Honoka's grandmother. I guess I was right where I predicted where this was going. At the start, I had a suspicion that they would bring back Nagisa and Honoka at some point, but I guess it won't be till the last couple episodes, but I really hope we get to see an adult Nagisa and Honoka. Anyway, Sanai tells a story that she tells in Futariwa Precure, where the war with Hiroshima, and she explains the clock stayed in place after the attack. Side note, how old is Sanai? Because Hiroshima happened in 1945, and Sanai looks about 10 when it happened. That means she would have to be 90 years old, or hasn't aged in 20 years. I want to know her secret. Nozomi the pedo and Komachi go to the clock to see if there's anything unusual about the clock. Nothing was found, but then they're attacked by those terrible 3D shadows. Nozomi turns to cure Dream, and this is what I mean by rushed. Right after, it only takes a flower being squashed for Komachi to turn into Cure Mint. I really feel like after 20 years, the writers have no idea what they're doing with Komachi. Like, come on, Precure, she has her fans, stop doing her dirty. Overall thoughts, this episode was good. If it goes somewhere. If Komachi is still investigating the case, it'll be a good episode. But I have this feeling that the Precure writers just hate Komachi for whatever reason, so I have a feeling we'll not be seeing her do anything again in this series. But if you're a Komachi fan, here's her 5 seconds of screen time. Next episode, we have another Saki and Mai episode. I love these episodes. I'm enjoying the Splash Star characters a lot this season, and I'm really looking forward to re-watching Splash Star for my Precure series reviews. It's now a Saki episode. There are talks about her taking over the bakery because her dad wants to start making Japanese confectionery, and Saki has sued June to get married. Although Saki is questioning what she wants because she doesn't want to take over the bakery. However, she doesn't want to let her parents or her fiancé down. Mai takes Saki out to cheer her up. Mai notice Saki feels down when she talks about bread, and that's not normal for Saki. We see scenes in the episode where Saki makes bread and she isn't sure what she's doing wrong. She sure does add a lot of water to this bread, by the way. Maybe it's your bread is a bit too soggy. Anyway, the reason why Saki is feeling down is because she wants to move to France to study baking. She tells Mai this at the tree that they first transformed at. Wonder what this is going to mean. Mai tells Saki if she wants to do something, she told her that she would fully support her. Then they are attacked by Belle, which finally brings back properly Michiru and Karu. I've always wanted to see these characters back too, so it's good to see them. They still have powers. Okay, if you have powers, where the fuck have you two been this entire time? Anyway, Mai tells Saki they need to help, but Saki is unsure and explains she's not a kid anymore. Mai encourages Saki to embrace it and they turn back to Cure Bloom and Cure Egret. Guess Flappy and Choppy are just in the transformation device, never to come back again? Saki and Mai fight the enemy and then defeat Belle. Belle tells them humans are going to destroy the world and retreats. Saki tells her parents and fiancé that she wants to move to France, and all of them are supportive of her dream. Saki is able to make a deal with her dad saying he can make confetti from Komachi's store, which he's very happy about. Back at the bar, Saki and Mai explains what's going on. Then Michiru and Karu explains the enemy's bases at the clock tower, which proves Komachi's theory correct. Then everyone notices Michiru and Karu are the two hosts of Dark Knight Live, which, how the heck did Saki and Mai not figure that out? It's not like they were being discreet with their identity. They have their hair and their voice, and they're just cat versions of them. Now they know, Nozomi says they have to find Belle at the clock tower. However, she ends up collapsing and the episode ends. I really enjoyed this episode. Saki and Mai have both really good episodes, and I feel like this is the most adult problems that we've seen in this series. I'm glad Saki got a happy ending, and will be moving to France like she wanted. Overall, great episode. 3 to go now. I think we're moving on to the finale. Nozomi's dead! Nah, she just collapsed from exhaustion from being a precure. The pedo tells her to stop transforming, however all the girls are questioning whether that's the right thing to do. The shadows are getting worse and Michiru and Karu are investigating whether it might be humans causing it. The message of global warming comes back to piss off the public for their actions. Seriously, global warming is a thing. So the reason why the girls are collapsing and it's just Nozomi is because the time flower wilts every transformation, which if the flower dies can cause the person to die. Nozomi has transformed first and has done so the most, so that's why it's affecting her the most. The girls think it's worth saving the town while sacrificing their lives. Although this is precure, they are cowards. When it comes to killing a character, they can't even kill a villain, never mind a cure, especially Cure Dream, predicting a fake death here and now. The pedo warns Nozomi again about the risks, and she talks about the pedo being there for her the whole way through high school, which really contradicts episode 5 where Nozomi claims that he's never seen the pedo since the end of Go-Go. But in all seriousness, more uncomfortable levels of grooming happen to Nozomi, and everyone's treating this like it's okay. I know I'm going to get Nozomi as an adult comments, but I don't care. This is grooming. I'm not making the point again in the same video. Although, I guess we can go for another reminder. Who's surprised that the girls decided to transform again? My boy Boombi makes a cameo though, saying Dream is his favourite cure. He should have been part of the final fight. They fight the shadows and approach Belle. Belle tells the girls her motive, both sides wanting to save the town. The girls want to save the people, but Belle wants to save the environment. To be fair, I'm with Belle on this one. We don't treat the planet well. This is a villain I can sympathise with. Honoka's grandmother makes another cameo, and we see a glimpse of Nagisa and Honoka. Called it! I'm gonna have 5 Go-Go and Splash Star, so it would be odd if we didn't have the OG girls, my 3rd and 4th favourite cures. Overall, this is an okay episode. I know it's only 12 episodes, but this felt rushed, and the conflict of the characters was solved in 10 minutes. In fact, not even Nozomi. She already knew in the hospital bed what she wanted to do. She was just happy to throw away her life. Maybe she knows this is precure and is practically immortal to Toei. I think we're going into the final fight now, so let's see how this goes. Precure calls out how shit humans are in this episode. Ooh, we're really pissing off the non-believers now. Okay, I love the villain and the motives of this series, and the Cures still choose to fight her. And I'm now actually wondering who is the villain in this conflict. Like, there is a point in the episode where Michiru says that they got what they deserved. Wow, Michiru, very brutal. But the shadows turn out to be everybody's shitty behaviour. We are humans. We have times where we can have a bit of shitty behaviour. Nobody's perfect, but it's what we learn from it that really counts. The pedo speaks to Michiru and Karu about their beliefs and why they helped the precure if they felt that way. They responded it was the kindness of Saki and Mai. The pedo explains while there are shitty humans, like him, there are also good ones as well. There are little details as well, like Nozomi gets affected by the fight in cure form because it's taking a toll on her body, and Granny returns in a flashback where she sees the bell for some reason. It doesn't really add much to the story. Belle then summons a Bulbasaur shadow to eat up the town. Buildings, trees, and the whole town are disappearing, which really contradicts what you want to do, Belle. But oh no, she's feeling bad now, and then the shadow attacks her. Dream saves her and tells her, yes, humans have to change, and knowing this show, Nozomi will save the planet and win the Nobel Peace Prize or something. Oh no, Nozomi collapsed again, what do we do? She can't move, and the only two characters that can seem to fight in an All-Stars property show up. I predicted this when the concept art came out, although I do find it a shame that Black and White only appear in the end of the second last episode. We haven't even seen Luminous yet, and then that's the episode done. Overall, I really liked this final fight. I liked the villain's motive. It's a conflicting one with the viewer because of course you want to support the cures. However, in some aspects, Belle is right. Humans are causing the world to go to shit, and Precure don't hold back on telling the viewer at all. Didn't think Toei had the balls for controversy, to be fair. So fair play, Toei. You didn't hold back on the matter at all. Now on to the final episode. I think once I put my opinions out on the Nozomi Coco ship, I think everyone knows how I feel about this ending. Although we'll go into it later on in this section, let's finish the final fight first. So the episode starts and we get 10 seconds of Shiny Luminous. Really? People complain about Blossom and Marion taking the spotlight from Sunshine and Moonlight and Heartcatch, but this is so much worse. It's always black and white. Luminous is just there for decoration, and I mean, she does make a speech to Belle later, but why isn't she in the fight? Michiru and Karu contribute more, and they aren't even official cures. Although, let's be honest, they should have been Cure Bright and Cure Windy in my opinion. Anyway, Michiru and Karu expose the shitty behaviour on livestream and says everything is happening because of humans. The town cheers them on, and another surprise, Boonbean calls them out for their BS. Precure series normally do that everyone cheers for the cure route, however Boonbean tells them to stop cheering and actually do something about it. This would not be the response people would give in real life at all. The internet is a dark and cruel place. Although Precure has taught us that all it takes to fix global warming is get a giant monster to destroy your town, so get on that, government. The S5 girls, not Milky Rose for some reason, guess she doesn't matter either, have a new attack thanks to the people of the town, and they are able to stop the monster. Belle retreats saying that she doesn't trust humans, but I guess she just can't be arsed anymore. They tried to catch up with Black, White and Luminous, but the Time Flower dies, and I guess so does Nozomi. This is Precure, and happy music is playing, and everyone's going on with their lives. She's probably just sleeping. Then we get the Where Are They Now section. Karen is still a doctor. Kurumi is now the fucking Prime Minister. Kinda see that. I mean, no one likes her anyway. Rin's jewelry business is going well. Urara is now doing her play. Saki moves to France. And Asa Komachi, I guess she just pulls weeds now. God, why do these writers hate Komachi so much? What did she do to them? Michiru and Karu are still judging humans, but fair enough, they did leave a town a shit tip after that. Milk is trying to form a government for fairies from fairies, getting suggestions from the citizens. God, if only the real Prime Minister did that. As for Nozomi, yeah, she's still sleeping. The pedo visits frequently. Apparently her kids in her class do as well. Hopefully not at the same time. And speaking of that, here is the bit I dreaded. It was gonna happen, I know, but it makes me sick to my stomach. The pedo and Nozomi confess their love to each other. This is a massive sour taste. Nozomi marries her pedophile and then they live happily ever after. So I guess the best way is to end this video is like this. Take it away, Newcastle United fans. The pedophile! The pedophile! So that was Onota Precure. Let's go over my overall thoughts. Firstly, the positives. The story was brilliant. The message on climate change and talking about how people can do better is a good story to take on as an adult Precure fan. It made me think how we could treat the planet as a race and how we can do so much better to treat planet Earth well. I also love the individual stories of each cure. We had some very relatable stories. Karen's life as a doctor, Rin and Urara's job struggles, Saki's decision to go to another country, and Mai's breakup with her boyfriend to focus on her career. All good stories, and Komachi playing detective because no one cares about Komachi apparently. I also really liked the last scene where nothing really changed in the world. It was still a shit tip, because even being attacked by a monster, people still can't put their rubbish in the bin. This This is a mixed bag for me. The next point, I didn't really like the Curas aging down. At first I thought it was a lazy thing to do, mainly because I wanted to see adult versions of the Precures, and I was disappointed. However, as the season went on and there were consequences to transforming, it made it interesting. Although, like I said, it's Precure. They can't kill off a villain, so I wasn't expecting them to go that route anyway. Although I'd rather Nozomi die than the ending we actually got, but we'll get to that. Michiru Karu and Boombi were all great appearances for the show as well. It's nice to see some old villains help out too. Only thing I'd say about them is that I wish they contributed more to the final fight. Yes, Michiru and Karu used their social media to broadcast this, but there have been episodes where they've shown these characters do have powers without consequences. So surely it would have made them more sense for them to join the fight so they, don't die? And while we're in extra characters, it's a shame Nagisa and Honoka came in when they did. It was really only the last episode and we don't know what they're up to now. Nozomi dies before we can find out. Although it does imply a season 2, so hopefully we will see them in that. Right, I don't want to talk about this much more because I think I said everything in the video already, but I can't get past the encouragement of grooming between Nozomi and Koko. This relationship is so wrong on many levels. Let's not talk about the fact that it's a girl and a fucking squirrel, but the relationship is like marrying your high school teacher. I had a crush on his science teacher when I was 12. Imagine if I married him. That would be all over the papers and he would be called a nonce. Nuts is in my good book. He didn't try to croon Komachi yet. But I just can't because this is disgusting and this ruined the show for me a little bit. Overall, I think a 7 out of 10 is a fair rating. I can definitely list more positives than negative, but the one negative I have takes so many points off it. So that's the video. What did you guys think of Onita Precure? And as well, which season would you like to see another season where the characters are adults? I would personally love to see a sequel to Heartcatch. I think there could be so much done there. Tsubomi's sister, for example, becomes a Cure and forms her own team. I would love to see that. Anyway, like, subscribe, comment your answers to my questions, and I'll see you in the next video.